When federal agents first stepped inside Nancy Guthrie's residence, they carried with them the standard expectations that accompany any serious investigation. In cases involving a sudden disappearance, authorities typically brace themselves for the obvious indicators of violence or coercion. They look for weapons left behind, hastily written ransom notes, or, in the worst circumstances, a body. None of those things were present. Instead, what confronted them was something far less dramatic at first glance, and far more unsettling in its implications. It was not loud evidence. It did not shout. It whispered. And in the realm of federal investigations, it is often the quiet discoveries that do the most damage. The FBI does not circle back to a scene it has already processed unless there is a meaningful reason to do so. Crime scenes are documented meticulously the first time. Photographs are taken. Items are cataloged. Surfaces are examined. When agents decide to return, it is not because they are uncertain or bored. It is because something has shifted. Perhaps a previously overlooked detail has taken on new significance. Perhaps a theory has evolved. Perhaps new information has cast old evidence in a different light. In Nancy Guthrie's case, what was uncovered inside her modest Tucson, Arizona home forced exactly that kind of reevaluation. The trajectory of the investigation changed because of it. To understand how this case escalated to a full-scale federal operation, one must examine every element. The bloodstains discovered on the porch, the surveillance footage that captured a masked figure, the single glove found miles away, the gray Range Rover seized under unusual circumstances, and the DNA evidence that has refused to match anyone in the national database. Each piece alone might seem limited. Together, they form a layered and deeply troubling picture. And the story, by all accounts, is still unfolding. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is known publicly as the mother of Savannah Guthrie, co-anchor of NBC's flagship morning program, The Today Show. But beyond that connection to a national television personality, Nancy herself lived a life defined by simplicity and devotion. She resides in Tucson, Arizona, a city characterized by desert landscapes, warm evenings, and tightly knit communities where neighbors often know one another by name. Those who know Nancy describe her as steady and grounded, a woman guided by faith and family. She attended virtual church services with consistency. She shared meals with her children. Her routines were predictable in the best possible way. Nothing about her life hinted that she would one day become the focal point of one of the most closely scrutinized missing persons investigations in the country. On Friday evening, January 31st, 2026, Nancy spent time with her family. It was, by every account, an ordinary night. There was dinner. There was conversation. There was the familiar comfort that comes from being surrounded by loved ones. No arguments were reported. No tension lingered in the air. According to law enforcement's established timeline, she was dropped off at her home shortly before 10 p.m. She walked inside. The door closed behind her. That moment, simple and unremarkable at the time, would become the final confirmed sighting of Nancy Guthrie by anyone who knew her personally. The following morning, Sunday, February 1st, Nancy was expected at a friend's home in Tucson. Nearly every week, she watched a live-stream church service there. It was a routine she rarely broke. When she did not arrive, concern began to grow. Friends reached out to her children. Her children attempted to contact her directly, but were unable to do so. As the hours passed without response, unease deepened. By noon that day, a missing person report had been filed with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. What started as a simple worry quickly escalated into one of the largest coordinated search efforts Arizona has seen in recent memory. When investigators arrived at Nancy's residence that afternoon, the exterior of the scene appeared undisturbed. There were no shattered windows, no broken locks, no furniture overturned in visible disarray. The house did not look like the site of a struggle. But appearances can deceive. On the front porch, forensic analysis would soon confirm the presence of Nancy's blood. That discovery fundamentally altered the nature of the investigation. Blood at the entry point of the home suggested that whatever occurred between 10 p.m. on January 31st and the morning of February 1st was neither calm nor voluntary. The stillness inside the house no longer felt benign. It felt ominous. Yet perhaps the most chilling development did not come from inside the home at all. It came from a device that many homeowners install for convenience and then rarely think about again: a doorbell camera. During the early morning hours of February 1st, around the time Nancy disappeared, that camera recorded something extraordinary. A person appeared outside her front door wearing a ski mask, gloves, long pants, and a jacket. The individual was armed, carrying what appeared to be a firearm secured in a holster. For several days after Nancy's disappearance, this footage remained known only to investigators. Law enforcement issued careful statements to the public, confirming that she was missing and that the case was being treated as a possible abduction. They did not initially disclose the existence of the surveillance video. That restraint was intentional. 9 days after Nancy vanished, on February 10th, FBI Director Kash Patel took the unusual step of personally releasing 6 black and white photographs and 3 video clips on social media. The images showed the masked figure standing outside Nancy Guthrie's front door. On the person's back was a 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack, a product sold exclusively at Walmart. At one point in the footage, the individual reached toward the camera lens and attempted to obstruct it by placing what appeared to be part of a plant in front of it. The movement was measured and deliberate. There was no sense of panic, no visible hesitation. The actions suggested planning. The FBI described the suspect as a male approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build. A reward for information was announced at $100,000 and later increased. Separately, Savannah Guthrie's family declared a private reward of $1 million for any information leading to Nancy's safe return. Close examination of the footage raised additional questions. Some images seemed to depict the suspect wearing the backpack, while others showed him without it. This sparked speculation that he may have approached the home more than once. The Pima County Sheriff's Department later clarified that the images did not contain visible date or timestamps and cautioned against assuming they were taken on separate days. Even so, the need to address that interpretation underscored the complexity embedded within the footage. Roughly 2 miles from Nancy's home, search teams located a single glove. It appeared similar to the type worn by the masked individual captured on camera. Investigators handled it carefully and submitted it for forensic analysis. A DNA profile was successfully extracted from the glove, belonging to an unknown male. That development represented a potential breakthrough. However, when the profile was entered into CODIS, the combined DNA index system containing more than 19 million offender profiles, including over 430,000 from Arizona alone, no match was found. The absence of a match suggested that the individual had never been arrested for a qualifying offense that would have placed his DNA in the system. Additional DNA recovered from inside Nancy's home also failed to produce any matches. Investigators then turned to investigative genetic genealogy, a method that searches publicly available genealogy databases rather than criminal ones. This approach has previously solved high-profile cases, including identifying the Golden State Killer and assisting in the case against Brian Kohberger in the University of Idaho murders. However, the DNA sample from Nancy's residence was described as mixed, meaning it contained genetic material from more than one individual. Such complexity slows analysis considerably. Even so, the process is underway. DNA, unlike a suspect, cannot disguise itself. At a later stage, federal agents quietly returned to Nancy's home. Such a move is significant. It indicates that new information has reshaped the understanding of the original evidence. Reports indicated that investigators sought to recover additional footage from the back end of the home's security system. The FBI confirmed that previously inaccessible data had been retrieved from residual back-end storage, requiring specialized digital forensic techniques. Modern security systems often retain fragments of data even after apparent deletion. In this sense, the house itself became a silent witness, still capable of revealing information if examined with the right tools. The investigation expanded further when ransom communications began to surface. On February 2nd, Tucson CBS affiliate KOLD-TV reported receiving a letter demanding payment in exchange for Nancy's release. The letter included details about her home and her attire on the night she disappeared. Soon after, TMZ reported receiving a demand for millions of dollars in Bitcoin, complete with a cryptocurrency wallet address and a deadline. Harvey Levin later indicated that a subsequent message claimed no further communication would occur. Deadlines passed without resolution. During this period, a California man was arrested for impersonating one of Nancy's abductors in an attempt to extort her family. Authorities confirmed that his scheme was unrelated to the legitimate ransom communications still under investigation. On February 7th, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings released a video message seemingly directed at whoever might be holding their mother. In it, Savannah stated that they had received the message, that they understood, and that they were willing to pay. She pleaded for her mother's return so the family could celebrate with her and find peace. The language was measured and purposeful, clearly crafted to reach a specific audience. On February 13th, law enforcement executed a search operation approximately 2 miles from Nancy's home. 2 individuals were removed from a residence, and nearby roads were closed for 4 hours. Although no arrest followed, a gray Range Rover discovered near the search zone became central to the investigation. Officers placed a tarp over the rear of the vehicle before opening it, shielding its contents from public view. The vehicle was towed and remains in custody for forensic analysis. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffin-Daffer described it as the most significant lead in the case. At the height of the operation, around 400 investigators were involved. The FBI's Phoenix field office established a command post in Tucson. Authorities examined cell phone data, reviewed surveillance footage from neighbors and businesses, consulted firearms dealers to trace the distinctive holster, and attempted to identify the suspect's clothing through retail databases. The Ozark Trail backpack sold exclusively at Walmart remained a focal detail. Reports also indicated that investigators deployed a helicopter equipped with Bluetooth detection technology in an effort to locate signals from Nancy's cardiac pacemaker. Concerns were later expressed that public disclosure of this tactic might have compromised its effectiveness. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos publicly cleared Nancy's family members as suspects, emphasizing their cooperation. Statistically, loved ones are often examined first in such cases, making this formal clearance notable. As weeks passed, updates grew less frequent. Retired FBI agent Steve Moore suggested that the investigation was transitioning from manpower-intensive searches to more precise forensic analysis. Sheriff Nanos insisted the case was far from cold, vowing that it would remain active until Nancy is found or every lead is exhausted. Savannah Guthrie later shared a message expressing continued hope and urging whoever has information to come forward, stating it is never too late to do the right thing. As it stands, Nancy Guthrie vanished from her Tucson home on January 31, 2026. Her blood was located on her porch. A masked, armed figure appeared on surveillance footage. A glove was recovered 2 miles away. DNA evidence has not matched any known offender. A gray Range Rover was seized under circumstances that remain unclear. Ransom demands were made in cryptocurrency. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department continue their efforts. What investigators discovered inside Nancy Guthrie's home was not a single dramatic object. It was an accumulation of evidence, subtle yet powerful. Each element on its own might seem quiet. Together, they are devastating. And it all began with blood on the porch.